It is early morning in the temple courts in Jerusalem. Jesus has been teaching since dawn, and a crowd has gathered around him. Then a commotion. The scribes and Pharisees push through, dragging a woman with them. They set her in the middle of the crowd, and they pose a question to Jesus that is not actually a question. It is a trap. And we have been reading his answer as a lesson in grace, without ever understanding what he was actually escaping. John chapter 8. The scribes and Pharisees bring a woman they say was caught in adultery. Caught in the very act, they say. They stand her before the crowd and before Jesus, and they ask, "Master, Moses in the law commanded us that such should be stoned. But what sayest thou?" And John tells us plainly why they were asking. In verse 6, "This they said, tempting him, that they might have to accuse him." Jesus does not answer. He stoops down and writes something in the dust with his finger. They keep pressing him, and he stands. He says, "He that is without sin amongst you, let him first cast a stone at her." He stoops again and writes again. One by one, beginning with the eldest, the accusers leave, until it is only Jesus and the woman. And he says, "Neither do I condemn thee. Go and sin no more." To understand what is happening here, you need to know one fact about Roman-occupied Judea around 30 AD. The Jewish ruling council had been stripped of the authority to carry out capital punishment. Historians call this the eugladi, the right of the sword, and Rome held it exclusively. Jewish courts could judge, but they could not execute. Mosaic law, in Deuteronomy 22, required stoning for adultery caught in the act. So the Pharisees have constructed a perfect dilemma. If Jesus says stone her, he has called for an illegal execution under Roman law, and can be reported to Rome. If he says release her, he has publicly contradicted Moses, and can be accused of being a false teacher. So there is no safe answer. Either response destroys him. And notice one more thing. Mosaic law requires both parties to be present and both to be punished. So where is the man? The woman was supposedly caught in the act. The male partner is conspicuously absent. This was not a genuine legal proceeding. This was a staged confrontation using a real person as a prop. Now, the two things the text leaves deliberately open. First, what did Jesus write on the ground? John mentions it twice, in verse 6 and in verse 8, and never says what it was. This has fascinated readers for 2,000 years. Some scholars point to Jeremiah 17:13, which says, "Those who depart from God will be written in the earth." Others note that Roman magistrates had a custom of writing their verdict without speaking them aloud. Some suggest he was writing the specific sins of the men present, but we do not know. And I think John knows we don't know, and left it that way intentionally. Second, the phrase, "without sin," can mean sinless in general, or it can mean without sin of a specific matter. Some scholars read it as a direct reference to the men present. If any of you have not participated in this setup, in using this woman as bait, then throw. The oldest leave first. Make of that what you will. This is Illuminate Gospel Insights, a Bible study app I built for the 4 Gospels. Tap any verse and you'll get a historical context behind it. the theological reflection, and cross-references, all in one place. It's free to download, and there's a one-time pro unlock for the full library. Links are in the description. Here is the thing about the passage that I find most useful in real life. Jesus does two things simultaneously that we usually treat as opposite. He refuses to condemn the woman, and he tells her plainly to go and sin no more. He does not pretend that the sin did not happen. He does not minimalize it or excuse it. He names it. But he declines to let her be destroyed by people who are using a true thing about her as a weapon for their own purposes. So think about differences between those two things in a workplace, or a family, or a friendship. Accountability is truth spoken to help someone. Condemnation is truth deployed to damage someone, usually by people who would not survive the same standards applied to them. The Pharisees who walked away that morning knew something about themselves, and the oldest ones left first. Jesus held both things together, and this matters, and you are not defined by it. That is a much harder posture to hold than either pure grace or pure judgment alone. John 8, verse 7. A legal trap with no exit. A woman used as a prop. A line written in the dust that nobody recorded. And a response that showed grace and truth at the same time, without sacrificing either. Illuminate Gospel Insights is a free-to-download iOS and Android app with a one-time pro unlock for the full content library across all 4 Gospels. Link for the app in the description. New videos out every week. I will see you in the next one.